Cam from IGN. Welcome to another episode of Card Corner, the show where we don't do that, but we are going to talk about cards, and one card specifically today. It's a Knights of the Frozen Throne reveal from Team 5 to IGN, and they've given me a very, very exciting card. It's a Priest Legendary, and it's a great flavor fit for the Priest, and it's also a card with a crazy effect, along the lines of like a Elise Starseeker or Hemet Jungle Hunter, that kind of big effect that could potentially change the game in really interesting ways. And the card is Archbishop Benedictus, which is a 7-mana 4/6 Priest Legendary. Shuffle a copy of your opponent's deck into your deck. So like I said, awesome flavor fit. I mean, Priest is all about stealing your opponent's stuff, whether permanently or temporarily, using Potion of Madness and Curious Glimmerroot and all these kind of cards, Thoughtsteel. So obviously this is a great flavor fit for Priest, and a really interesting card too. I mean, if you think about it, you could potentially just chuck this in as another kind of endgame tool in a Control Priest build, or you could look to build out a deck that this is the engine for your endgame. A very questionable engine, mind you, but your engine. So you could actually fill your deck with low drops, just ways to contest the board, removal, and card draw. And then when you get to this, you play it, and then that kind of fuels the rest of the game. That's a really uncertain thing to do, obviously, because, I mean, obviously the way decks are built in Hearthstone, they're built all around synergy and win conditions, which is a key part of that as well. So when you copy an opponent's deck into your deck, well, that's weakening the synergy of your deck, and it's kind of weakening. You're getting their synergy, but intermixed with yours, right? So if you think about a card like Prince Malchezaar, he shuffles random legendaries into your deck, but what that actually means is, and people think, oh, legendaries, they're strong cards, right? But actually what it does is it reduces the consistency of your deck, because if you draw into one of those legendaries, on average, that's going to be worse than drawing into one of the cards that you chose to put in your deck that furthers, your win condition or the synergy of your deck. So this very much applies here, and it's not like, say, a card like Thoughtsteel where you're getting the cards into your hand. Once you've played Archbishop, those cards go into your deck, and then you've got to draw through them one by one. And does Priest have enough card draw to make that happen and actually kind of fuel that? It's hard to say. I mean, one thing you could do potentially is play a deck that's all about stealing your opponent's stuff and pulling from their deck, and then you've already got their synergy from their deck in your hand when you play him, and then maybe that kind of works. But let's just say you're playing against a Jade Druid, and you're slapping him down on turn 7, best case scenario, and they're already along their kind of Jade train, right? So you're well behind, and then you're drawing into their Jades and trying to build that up. That's not going to be a very kind of good place for you to be trying to fight back for control of the board. I'm actually kind of surprised that this card doesn't have a taunt, because I feel like you should play it down and then changes your deck, and then it taunts, so it just gives you that one turn to try and stabilize. If you look at cards like Elise, where you get to the Golden Monkey, not only is that monkey incredibly well statted, but it's got taunt, and it just kind of stems the bleeding and then lets you hopefully start playing high power legendaries to finish the game off. So it's interesting, but I think if you look at the stat line on this card, Team 5's trying to tell us something, right? It's a 7-mana 4/6. That is well below what you would expect to get for 7 mana. So to me, they're saying, no, well, they're either saying, yeah, this is just purely a fun card, you're not going to put this in a deck that you hope is viable, or they're saying, actually, we think in the right deck, this could be really good, and that's why it's underpowered, because we feel that if the stat line was higher, it would be included in more stuff or whatever. So I think the stat line kind of is interesting in and of itself. The other thing that the stat line might tell us is that there's more synergy for this type of effect coming in the set. Because obviously the big caveat of this conversation right now, this is not a conversation, you're listening to me. The big caveat of what I'm kind of running through right now is that we've only seen a percentage of the cards of the set so far. I mean, we don't know what Anduin's Death Knight hero card is yet. So could other cards kind of combine to help make this better? It remains to be seen. So this card doesn't really fit with any current priest archetypes apart from maybe Control Priest, but I can definitely see some ways that you could build this out, right? So for instance, you could use the silence / kind of handlock strategy where you're playing, you know, Humongous Razorleaf and Ancient Watchers and Sun Fury Protectors and Defender of Arguses, and just basically trying to build up a wall in the early game to transition to this card later on. Oh, another thing that I wanted to mention too is think about the mirror with this card, right? Because if you draw it while it's still in your opponent's deck and you play it, then you get another copy of it in your deck, and then when they draw theirs and yours is still in your deck, they could play it and get another copy of yours. So you could theoretically just go back and forth forever if things work out. That's not necessarily going to happen, but you know, like that's one of the fun things about Priest as a class is you're never really sure how things are going to pan out, and you are taking cards. I mean, a lot of classes obviously take cards from other classes now, but you know, Priest is the classic one that does it, and it can radically change your game plan and give you some insanely powerful turns when you're using cards that were never designed to be used with your class. I think the biggest question mark here is whether you can take other deck synergies and make them work for you. So, you know, if you're facing Elemental deck or a Murloc deck or like a Token Shaman or something, what percentage of games you're actually going to be able to make those cards work? I mean, imagine like on turn 8 drawing a 1-cost Murloc and you just don't have any way to like fuel that process. It could be really, really bad. But if the meta kind of shifts in the right way to slows down a little bit, becomes a bit more controlling, you know, Jade Druid's going to be a big problem, but theoretically you might be well placed against a few other decks in the meta. So that would be really, really interesting to see. Just before we go, a couple of little housekeeping things that I double checked with Team 5. So if you have managed to buff the cards in your deck, it will not pull across the buffs. And just to clarify, it's actually pulling the remaining cards from your opponent's deck, not their deck in its entirety. So it's whenever you play this card, it pulls the remaining cards. So yeah, I mean, they're my kind of initial thoughts on this. It'll be interesting to see where it goes. Will this be an Elise Starseeker or will it be a Renounced Darkness? I don't know, but it's a cool card, and you know, thanks to Team 5 as always for their support, and to you guys, the Hearthstone community and the Hearthstone subreddit, because you know, this community, even though it can be a bit fractious at times, I mean, there's just so much love and passion. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the ladder.